So Ted, as we look at agriculture, why don't you give us a little idea what you would define sustainability as?
Okay. Well, Dan, Dr. Rodney Heitschmidt, that used to work for Texas A&M experiment station for many years and then went on to work with the USDA, he had a quote that said, agriculture is the business of converting solar energy into products that can be used by people. And so if you take the idea of sustainability and back up and then also look at Dr. Heitschmidt's comment of business and environment and people, well, you kind of grasp, or you kind of get into or you capture the three pillars of what in today we call sustainability. And whether that's sustainability as defined by the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, or the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, or the Roundtable for Sustainable Rangelands, or whatever group, there's three pillars in there, and one of those is economic viability. The second one is environmentally sound, and the third is social responsibility. So we have environment, business, and people. Well, when sustainability, if we think back to sustainability and move back however many years, a lot of times we thought about sustainability from an economic standpoint. Is it economically viable, and can we sustain a business or sustain a production system? Then in the 60s, we really got into the environmental sustainability movements. And then as we progressed on up to today's world, we've now thrown in the component of social responsibility has come more to light. And so now those really form the three pillars of what we talk about in sustainability today. And so as we look at beef production or agriculture, then we think back, are our production systems and our supply chains for food economically viable? Can the producers from an economic standpoint remain in business, and right, can they produce a product for consumers that's economically affordable by the consumer? Are our production systems environmentally sound? And from a social responsibility standpoint, that encompasses several different aspects. And for livestock production, that is animal health and well-being. From a consumer standpoint, it's food safety would be involved in that. And then also from a community standpoint, what is agriculture contributing back to our communities in our rural areas and even in our urban areas?
So if you go back to your solar energy points, if we go out into this wheat pasture just over here, mm-hmm, you see these cattle out on, they're grazing wheat. So, why do you put them on wheat in the first place, and what's the benefit to as we go through that to society?
Well, if we take any grazing environment, you picked wheat as an example, but we could go to our native rangelands that have been here for since the beginning of time, if you want. Those plants and those environments capture sunlight, convert it into carbohydrates and protein that we as humans, because of our digestive systems and so forth, we cannot make direct use of those forage products as a food source. But where beef cattle come into play is beef cattle can take those forage resources, that solar energy that's been converted into carbohydrates and protein, then they can consume that and convert it into a high quality protein product that can then be available for human consumption. And if you look at beef or milk, if you look at the protein composition or the amino acid composition of the protein in those products, that most nearly mimics what we require as humans in our daily diets. So if we think about sustainability and go back to beef, okay, economic viability, and we need production systems that allow us to produce beef in the most efficient manner from a resource utilization standpoint as well as a cost of production standpoint to maintain economic viability. And so a number of our technological advancements and things that we use in beef production have allowed us to gain efficiencies and help with economic viability. From an environmentally sound standpoint with beef production, if we start down in the grazing environment, proper grazing by definition is environmentally sustainable, because proper grazing is defined as utilization of those rangeland resources in those plant communities in a manner that allows them to sustain and improve over time, and that in itself is part of sustainability. And then from a socially responsibility standpoint, we need to think of how beef production contributes in many ways. We talked about food production, food safety. As we move through our production chains, that is one of the, again, a key aspect of many of our production systems, is that we manage our production in such a manner that we do not create food safety problems, that we prevent food safety problems. So we're guarding and making that, from a socially responsible standpoint, creating a safe food supply. Another aspect of social responsibility, Dan, is how does the beef production contribute back to the communities? And if we look in many of the areas where beef production occurs, whether it's in the community around where this feedlot is located, or in areas where beef cow-calf production occurs, how do those contribute to communities? Well, if you look inside those communities, beef production provides employment opportunities for people in the communities and helps drive the economy of those communities. There's many services and goods that the beef production system requires, whether that be truck drivers or whether that be well servicers to service water wells, other agricultural supplies that are used in beef production, that generates dollars in the economy and provides employment opportunities in these rural communities. And then finally, beef production and those producers and the people that work in beef production are the heart of many of these communities. They serve on our school boards, they serve in local governments, they work in our churches and provide services and help to people in the communities. And so from a community contribution standpoint, beef production contributes back to the communities. That's the heart of many of these communities, as well as the other agricultural pursuits are performing the same service in these communities, whether that's a corn farmer, a cotton farmer, a wheat farmer. Agriculture is the heart of those communities.